A well put together man is said to be sharp. At GMC, we get why people appreciate that kind of precision. This is GMC.
So here we are.
well, the Young Turks are back with a weird. See, it looks horrible on camera.
It's a breathe right strip. You just want ventilation during the show.
We're tired of you snoring during the show. Jesus, man. All right, John Idarola, Ben Mankus, I'm back. I never do it. Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, so great day for TYT. An enormously mediocre day for me personally, but I'm on here anyway, and we're going to try to do this. For those of you who don't know who missed the Monday and Tuesday shows, I got 4 stitches across the nose. They got taken out today, but I got to keep this shit on. So we're dispensed with that. Now onto the great day for TYT.
You wear your glasses all.
Oh, fitting for today. Okay, the Alabama cops. I'm gonna fucking breathe fire, man. Wait till you get to that story. All right. But speaking of which, let's start with another fucking shooting.
Another shooting. Today, a social services center in San Bernardino, California, was the target of up to 3 terrorists, between 1 and 3 armed gunmen, armed with assault rifles, clad in body armor, who left dozens injured or dead in their wake before fleeing the scene in an SUV. The manhunt, as we are filming this, is still ongoing. You'll understand the information we're giving you is the best information that we have at this point. But we do want some information from the scene, so we have this video of Scott Pelley describing an eyewitness account of what happened during the shooting.
But this was the best witness description that we have heard yet. She said that she was in her office looking out a window in this office complex where the assault occurred. She said that she clearly saw 3 gunmen, all dressed in black, armed with what she described as assault rifles and extra magazines. Now that would match what the police chief in San Bernardino told us just a few minutes ago at his news conference. The chief told us at that point that there are 14 dead, 14 being treated in emergency rooms. He said that those numbers could change, but that was the best estimate they have now. 3 gunmen, apparently reported by multiple witnesses, 3 gunmen dressed in black. One witness said that they saw the gunman leave the scene in a dark SUV, but that is the only description that we have. And clearly, at this point in time, the police are desperately trying to get together any witnesses, any description of the gunman that they possibly can. But right now, there are 3 heavily armed men with semi-automatic or automatic weapons somewhere in Southern California, having just murdered 14 people, shot 28 people at this state office building, and the police do not know where they are.
Now, there had been a rumor in about the hour after the shooting began that there was a SWAT presence in Pasadena. Some people thought that might have been connected. It has been proven now that is not actually connected to this. These are not the same people involved in Pasadena as in this original shooting. And we want to give you a little bit of information about the place where this happened. It's the Inland Regional Center, and according to their Facebook page, it opened in 1971, employs nearly 670 people, and works with roughly 32,200 individuals in that area who live with developmental disabilities. As of right now, we don't know anything about the potential motivation for this attack.
So it was a government building?
As far as I know, it's not an actual government building. It's a social services center. It might be government, it might be nonprofit. I'm not actually sure. But they are rendering services to the people in that area. And it appears that that was what was specifically targeted.
We have met the terrorists. It is us. So this is what I'm terrorized by. We got all this nonsense debates about Syrian refugees here. What Syrian refugees do we have in the country? What terrorist attacks have they done? None, right? You want to talk about probability and statistics and who's going to likely to cause you harm? It's us. It's the mass shootings, day in, day out. When is it going to be in your neighborhood? I guarantee it's coming. Okay? You want to be scared of something? Be scared of something rational. The mass shooters. They're everywhere. They're in Oregon, they're in California, they're in New Jersey, they're in Texas, they're everywhere. They're in Colorado, they're everywhere. We are the terrorists. We're terrorizing ourselves. How many times are we going to allow this? It happens every week. Now it happens several times a week. And we're held hostage by the NRA. And our goddamn politicians, the Republicans and some of the Democrats, no, I'm not going to do anything about it. As people get butchered, massacred over and over again in the country. Let's go invade countries based on terrorist attacks. There's non-stop terrorism in the country. Non-stop mass shootings. Dozens at a time killed. Our children are massacred in Connecticut. And we don't know a goddamn thing about it. Oh, why? Because the NRA greases some politicians. Have you no bounds of reason and decency, man? Fuck the NRA. How dare you, man? They're killing our kids. They're killing our citizens. What are you doing? Oh, Ted Cruz takes money from the NRA. Joe Manchin takes money from the NRA. These guys, oh, no, we can't do anything. Look at how corrupt our politics is. Over 80% of NRA members say, for God's sake, do a federal background check. Of NRA members, okay? Let alone over 90% of the country. But we don't have a democracy. We have politicians who are systemically corrupt. They're all bought, they're bribed, every single one of them, they're bribed by the NRA. So they go, I don't care how many of your kids die. I don't care how many of the citizens die. I don't represent them. I represent the people who write the checks. NRA writes my checks. Screw you and the citizens. I'm going to let the terrorists rampage throughout the country. That's what we have now. This is not a democracy. God damn it, the federal background checks over 90% of the country. What does it take? What does it take? This isn't a fucking democracy. These sons of bitch, corrupt assholes, and they're murdering all of us. They're murdering us all across the country. You know who's next? You're next. Your community is next. Wherever you live is next. It's not the Muslims, it's not the terrorists, it's not even the Christian terrorists that do the Planned Parenthood. It's the mass shootings. We're awash in guns. If we have all these weapons around, what do you think's going to happen? A certain percentage of the country is crazy. A certain percentage of the country wants to be famous, and they think the way to do that is to shoot things up. Some of them are so-called terrorists that we call terrorists, and some of them just want to get famous, or they're nuts. Take the guns away. You want to, no, Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia. What part of this is a well-regulated militia? This is not a fucking well-regulated militia. This is just mass shooting after mass shooting. That's what this is. This is not a well-regulated militia. This is not what the Second Amendment is supposed to be about. What is this? It's just a bunch of guns. Over 250 million guns in the country. Of course we're all going to get shot up. Of course we are. You think everybody's sane in the country? And we're just giving away the guns to the crazies, to the desperate, to all the nuts in the country. We're just giving it to them and say, go ahead, shoot us all. And that's what's happening. You don't like it. You don't like facts. That's your problem. And you're next.
I read that over the week, or the holiday week, the FBI did 185,000 background checks for new gun purchases. I suppose there was some sort of Black Friday sale. And I also read earlier today, before the shooting, the NRA responding to someone pushing for gun control, they said the true epidemic is the constant push for gun control. That's what they said. Yeah, that was before the shooting. Maybe they feel a little bit of shame.
The NRA won't let us stop selling weapons to people on the terrorist watch list.
You think that's an exaggeration? That can't be true, right? It is true. Paul Ryan, that brave leader of the Republicans, just a couple of weeks ago, blocked legislation that would say, hey, you know what? Maybe terrorists shouldn't have weapons. Not the terrorists I'm talking about. Oh, I'm wrong. I can't call people terrorists when they're mass shooters and kill dozens of people at a time, right? No. Bona fide people on the terrorism watch list. They're not allowed to fly. They're so dangerous. We won't let them fly. But they're like, here's an Uzi. Whatever. Here's weapons. NRA's got to make money. The weapons manufacturer's got to make money. Who cares? Give them to the crazy. Give them to the terrorists. Give them to whoever you want. NRA signs the checks. Go ahead, bitch, politicians. Keep working for them. We're gonna rip your fucking house down, man. This is what's happening in Washington. That's not a democracy. We gotta go after them. Wolfpack, up and at them, man. I'm serious. Get our democracy back. 93% want federal background checks, and we don't have it. What kind of fucking democracy is that? Wolfpack, go get them. Let's go. Stop. They're gonna keep on shooting us until we get our democracy back. God damn it, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so fucking mad. How many? That's my question. How many? It's 1 a week, 2 a week, 3 a week, 2 a day. How many? How many before we pass any legislation?
We're still talking about the Planned Parenthood one on our rundown today. That's what final judgment is. We're still talking about the last big shooting, and we can't even get totally through that before the next one happens.
How are you able to do it? I mean, background checks. Federally mandated background checks seems so minor. I mean, that you can buy military weapons. No. And the military should have those weapons, and no one else. And that means they could use them against us, but they won't. So, I mean, the mere fact, you look. My wife and I and kid went to Las Vegas over the weekend. I have a friend who lives there. In the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the ads, the Black Friday ad, just guns ad in the paper. You mentioned Uzis, and I don't know if it's on Uzi specifically, but you're like 1847s, but military quality weapons, military style weapons, and advertised in the paper.
Okay, you know who wants to protect cops? Not Fox News. We want to protect cops. Why do we have armor-piercing bullets in the market? Why is that legal? That's grotesque. Yeah. The only reason you need armor-piercing bullets is to pierce armor. Who has armor? Cops have armor.
Not deer.
No, the deer do not have fucking armor. So anybody who tells you they need an armor-piercing bullet is likely to be a terrorist, okay? Who wants to shoot cops, who wants to shoot government officials and kill them. Who wants to shoot government officials? Terrorists, right? Who else wants to shoot government officials? Terrorists, right? So why do you need armor-piercing bullets? No, you don't need armor-piercing bullets, but the NRA and the gun manufacturers who support the NRA, they make money off of armor-piercing bullets, and they don't mind terrorists, they don't mind bad guys, they love criminals, it scares the shit out of everybody. Everybody else has got to get a gun to protect themselves. They're super happy about shootings like this. They're super happy that terrorists get to buy guns. That's why they push for it. That's a fact. That's a fact. The NRA right now lobbying to make sure terrorists can get guns. Isn't that amazing? How could that not amaze us? Where the fuck are you, mainstream media? How are you not running that 24/7? The NRA says, let's give weapons to terrorists. How is that not a giant headline 24/7? We might offend the Republicans. We might offend the donors. We might offend all these people. Yes, it's way past time to offend them. Okay? The armor-piercing bullets are for thugs and terrorists. They need to be taken off the street right now. Us progressives are the ones that protect cops, and I guess the right wing who are in favor of armor-piercing bullets are cop haters, they're cop killers, and they like that, and that's why they want it on the street. What else? The deer do not have armor. You can't make that argument.
Burglars don't have armor. Nobody breaks into someone's house wearing a Kevlar vest. After the Paris shooting, which was done by Muslims who were not Syrian refugees, they said we can't allow Syrian refugees into our country. They politicized it so broadly that they applied the policies to different countries and to groups of people who hadn't even been involved in the shooting. But we can't say, if they're shooting up a place in America, maybe we should make it a little bit harder for them to shoot up places in America.
Well, some claim that we couldn't let Syrian refugees in the country because it was a certain percentage chance that they would be terrorists, and that conclusion was inevitable. That some of them would kill us. This is far more inevitable. Why don't we do something about this? You want to know a percentage chance? There's a far greater percentage chance that a gun owner is going to kill us than anything else, right? Whether it's terrorism, whether it's Planned Parenthood, whether it's Muslim fundamentalists. So you know what would really help us to stop dying? Is if we took all of the guns away. You want to do that? All of a sudden you don't want to talk about percentage chances. All of a sudden you don't want to talk about percentage chances, right? When it suits your benefit, percentage chances. You know who we should keep out of the country if you're talking about percentage chances? Men. Men do more crime by an order of magnitude than women. You want to protect us? Keep out all the men. The Norwegian men, the Syrian men, all the men. Keep them all out. You want to do that? Oh, all of a sudden you don't.
Paris T-shirt with a semi-automatic weapon on it. So I guess it's okay to exploit that one, right? Because it's no longer going on.
And and he says, so we don't know yet. We don't know yet. So they always say we don't know yet. We don't have all the details. Have they ever come back a week later and said, oh, now we do know the details. Oh shit, we need to do something about this. It's never happened. There's been 1,000 mass shootings in the past.
Here's what we do know about the San Bernardino shooting. It was a shooting. Here's the detail we do have. There were guns.
There's a good chance.
Good chance there
Oh
were guns.
no, you can have drive-by knifings. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't have drive-by hangings. You can't have any of that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there was once a knife attack in China. Yeah, you're right. Once.
You know what? Maybe there would be mass knifings. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Or mass hammerings, or mass frying pannings, whatever. Let's find out. Let's experiment as a country for a few years. And if they are going around with wiffle bats and killing people in mass wiffle battings, then we'll give you the guns back. How about that? We'll put them in a big vault for a little while, and then the head of the NRA could dive into it like Scrooge McDuck.
And then if there turns out there's a high percentage of knife owners that are knifing people, then we'll have that conversation. Right now, it's an enormously high percentage per capita compared to all other crimes and all other attacks of gun owners doing the killings. So, you want to profile someone, it's a no-brainer, Young Turks. All right, we're back. I'm not halfway done with my anger yet because we got a couple of more stories. We had another terrorist.
about to say something about it, but for some reason when Fox News is telling people the government is coming to get you, the government is going to take all your weapons, the government is going to register you, for some reason the cops don't feel endangered by that, when that is what gets them killed every year.
I'm not sure you're right. It's a great point. I'm not sure how they feel about it. They should.
I don't hear anything about it.
Well, but all we hear about is everything's framed through the prism of the people who talk about that stuff. So I mean, Fox doesn't talk about it when cops. With the fact is, overwhelming majority of police officers in favor of gun control. Like you don't hear that spouted out on. You know why? For frickin' obvious reasons.
Yeah. Don't politicize the cops, man. Okay. The last thing up. This FBI anti-terrorism unit. I get on the intelligence officials in the Scutcher all the time. What? There's a USA Today.
history of Islamic terrorism.
Hello! Have a 5-hour energy fan on your holiday shopping list? Give them a multi-pack. 4 packs for the mail carrier and distant cousin.
The nuance. Just go out and say we're gonna punch him in the face so hard. Is that what the American public actually wants?
I think that yes, I do. I think it's
He
unfortunate.
is hitting them hard. He is bombing them hard.
Barack Obama politically, and I was reading this week.
And by the way, he is killing their families.
Yes, he is. Of course, but he is also
Russia killed something like 1,000 civilians in 1 month with their bombing.
right. That's what doesn't work. That's why this is a relevant conversation. Barack Obama explains. Donald Trump says what he's going to do. Donald Trump punches you in the face. Every time there's a story about how Barack Obama, even time how leftists like us say the president needs to explain. He doesn't need to explain anything. Whatever he explains, it's lost, right? He is not really won politically. He needs to explain also, but yes, to answer your question, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm going to find him, I'm going to hit him, I'm going to hit him hard. I'm going to hurt their families. Like, look at that. But it's meaningless.
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this, right? So one is a point that Ben is making, which is, look, you do these like ticking time bomb scenarios. We've been arguing against them for 13 years, as long as we've been doing the show, right? It's because we don't live in 24. There is no Jack Bauer. And there's no ticking time bomb. The reason you pose that hypothetical is because you'd like to torture people.
Right.
And you go, well, if you'd let me do it in a ticking time bomb, why don't you let me do it all the time, right? There is no hypothetical where you kill their families and then ISIS collapses and they're done.
Right, yeah.
And we all go home and Syria and Iraq's a democracy. That hypothetical does not exist. The reason you pose that hypothetical is because you're too lazy to figure out how you're going to get the actual ISIS leaders. Like carpet bomb, you kill their families, who cares?
Right.
That's real. That's real.
Let me just interject for a second. It's super satisfying to some to say these guys are so evil. I am so determined to protect you. I'll kill their families. That'll make it hurt so much because we would think, oh, well, I wouldn't want my family killed. And he's right to think they won't want their families killed either. He actually there's a moment of humanity in there for Trump. He goes, they care about their families. I suspect that's true.
Why then doesn't it bother us when we're in this grip right now of everybody is so incredibly worried about terrorism? We saw Paris right now today. We're seeing in California. The idea that you would kill innocents is the most horrific thing supposedly that we can imagine.
They started.
He says the solution is kill more innocents. Ted Cruz said the solution is kill more innocents.
They're children. But it is playground logic. He started it. He punched me, so I punched him, and then I punched his friend Sarah because he started it.
Their heads are going to explode now, but I got bad news for you. We started it. Right. We started the Iraq invasion. We didn't start all the wars in the world. We're not guilty of everything.
That's
right?
the Jews.
So, but did we start the Iraq War, which created ISIS? We most certainly did. Who else started the Iraq War? Did Iraq attack us on 9/11, thereby meaning that they started it? No, they didn't. Al-Qaeda attacked us. Al-Qaeda had no connection to Iraq. And now even the Bush people admit that they had no connection to Iraq. So, in that particular case, there is no question.
What about that meeting in Prague?
Okay, so now let's just real quick do the second point. The second point is as a matter of morality. I mean, Donald Trump pretends to be a Christian. I know that's not very convincing, but all the Republicans claim to be great Christians. The sins of the father shall not be passed on to the son. Oh, but let's murder his son anyway. Let's kill their family. Now, let's break out family here. Let's be more specific. Babies,
Right.
daughters, sons, grandmothers, moms, right? So that's what Donald Trump is saying. Let's kill their babies. Let's kill their mothers. Let's kill their grandfathers. Let's butcher them all. Now, this is the party of morality? Does that sound moral to you? And he knows that it's not like Obama knows where they are, but he won't pull the trigger. We don't know where they are. So Trump is saying, to Ben's point, so what?
Right, so what?
So what? Let's kill their babies anyway. And maybe it's not their babies. Maybe it's somebody else's babies. But so what? I'm going to be a tough guy, and the way I'm tough is by killing family members, aunts, uncles, moms, children, okay? That's not tough. That's grotesque. And then finally, if you were to flip it on them and say, Donald Trump, how would you feel if they killed your family? Alarm bells would ring all across the country. In fact, me saying that will cause red flags, alarm bells, and they say, how dare you? Don't bring his kids into this. Here, I'll name one of his kids, Ivanka. Oh, how dare you? How dare you? Now, I want to protect Ivanka. I want to protect his family. So we're on the side of peace. We're on the side of progress. We're the good guys, right? But when you even mention the name of one of his kids, everybody else in the media, everybody else in the country will flip out. How dare you? Right? Too far. But he just said he'd murder their babies. He'd murder their kids, their teenagers, their grandmothers. He'd murder all of them. Why don't we say, how dare you to that? Oh, you know why? Because you don't think that those lives... We're not talking about ISIS, remember. That's right. If we knew where ISIS was, we'd already bomb them, right? President Obama's already dropped 5,000 bombs on ISIS. It's not like we didn't drop enough bombs. When he says, let's just go bomb them over there and kill their family, why aren't we outraged? I know some of us are, right?
Well, Ben Carson has better intelligence as to where they are, right?
And then he admitted that, you know what he said? He said, I was joking. It was tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. And this is really funny.
I don't get it.
The thing is, but this will not only will it not hurt Trump, it'll slightly help Trump. And the media will treat it as perfectly normal. Well, of course we should be killing their family. How about your family? How dare you? How dare you, you monsters, right? I want to protect everybody's family. For that, apparently, I'm the radical, right? And what kind of crazy upside-down world do we live in? Yeah. No, I'm going to propose something revolutionary. Let's try not to kill the innocents. Wow. I must be weak.
You are weak. Yeah.
I must be soft.
And maybe, I just assumed that Elizabeth Hasselbeck was getting the instruction in her ear, but maybe it was, because, she has a couple of kids now, and maybe she was like, mean their kids? Mm-hmm. I mean their like two-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter? Maybe that was that reaction. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure they'll call him that on it at the next Republican debate.
Okay. We have got to do the Alabama story.
We got to do Rahm too.
Okay,
started super late.
Yeah, that's right. Let's do Rahm and Alabama. Okay, guys, we're going to Rahm next. Okay. So John's going to do that story for you guys. So the story we skipped is Ben Carson dropping the post.
He's in third.
Yeah,
we all knew that was coming.
You all knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Rahm Emanuel is currently wrapped up in a controversy over his perceived protection of the police departments involved in the death of Laquan McDonald. So maybe that explains this incredibly awkward interaction that he had with a reporter from Politico.
We were saying backstage that you want to come back as an Emanuel child. You take your young people on fascinating trips around the world, headed these holidays to Cuba. Why?
Well, first of all, thanks for telling everybody what I'm going to do with my family. I asked if you had a private conversation with me, and now you decided to make that public. I really don't appreciate that. Number one, I really don't. That's my family. No. You asked me, what are you going to do this year? So I'm expressing to you now publicly my displeasure. My family trips are my family.
That is not the end of the awkwardness. We actually have more.
Here's who hated that conversation more than reporter Mike Allen. The woman
Okay. So for those of you who didn't see the story last week, Mike Allen was called out because there was some internal emails that were released that showed that he promised the Clintons that if they were to give him access to an interview with Chelsea Clinton, that it would be a quote no risk interview. He would not ask any questions that weren't already agreed to in advance, and so don't worry, it's going to be softballs. You're going to get your message out without any risk at all.
Yeah.
So now he's backpedaling from that. My sense of this is a little bit like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to ask one that we didn't agree to. Oops. Right? And then Rahm Emanuel has this nuclear reaction, and then Mike Allen backpedals. So let's show you the rest of it, and then we'll talk more about it.
That said, Amy and I, as parents, make a decision every year to take our children to see other parts of the world. And yes, this year, if my wife doesn't kill me now because of what you just did, we will take our kids to Cuba. I can't wait. Can you give me your cell number because I'd like you to listen to Amy.
I apologize for that. And
I don't know if you know that it's not going to work.
That could not have been more awkward. By the way, it didn't seem like he brought it up as part of a surprise, hard-hitting question.
No,
he was like, "So you want to give your kids a culture, and they come back and they're like you? You son of a bitch! How dare you say that?"
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to do any reading between the lines here. I don't think it's related to the Chelsea thing at all. I just think now Mike Allen has thought, man, this has been a rough 10 days.
I agree.
This has been a rough go.
I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at Rahm Emanuel. That was ridiculous.
I don't know. Look, Rahm Emanuel, one thing that I like about Rahm Emanuel is his honest prickliness. That was unpolitical. Rahm Emanuel's a guy, right? And I guess it was a private conversation. I think it's an easy mistake for a reporter to make because it doesn't seem like taking your family to Cuba is a big deal.
Who cares?
And, right. And I suspect that probably someone will persuade upon Rahm Emanuel in the next hour after that it's not that big a deal, and it was probably going to get out because you're the mayor of Chicago and you were going to Cuba. And
I don't know if he was pissed about. It seemed like he was genuinely pissed about his wife's going to be mad at him, and I don't know what risk they would have as the mayor of Chicago. I don't know. Why do you care where you went to vacation? So what if people know you went to? I don't get it, right?
it goes to our last story. It goes to protecting the kids, though. I mean, that's
protecting kids. How? For what? From what? I don't know. Anyway, it might be slightly that it doesn't look good for a politician to go to Cuba at this point.
I don't think so. Not a Democratic politician,
right?
No.
Maybe, but Mike Allen, if he did it on purpose, and I hear you, Ben, he probably didn't. He probably thought it was an innocent question, right?
Yeah.
I guess maybe he was just trying to dip his toe in the let me ask a question that wasn't scripted. Oh no! Right?
Not like that. With the mayor of Chicago, there's no way the questions are scripted. Rahm Emanuel sat in on 50 million of those things.
Yeah, there I disagree. I think no, but Ben, that's what I'm telling you. It's not just a Chelsea Clinton thing. Who cares about Chelsea Clinton? It's the least important interview of all time. The reason when he asked Bill Clinton a question one time, he went off script. And in the emails, it's indicated that the Clintons were livid about it, and he had to write an email apologizing.
Right, but
so you script out questions of Bill Clinton. Why wouldn't you script about the Rahm Emanuel?
Because Bill Clinton and the Clintons, this is why people don't like the Clintons, because they are enormously restrictive about that. They are controlling and they are paranoid. If you want to defend them, you say they're controlling and paranoid because people have legitimately been trying to get them since he ran for president in 1992. That's true. Right? Yeah. But their result has been to hunker down and with a close group of advisors and distrust everyone. So they distrust every interview, and they're under no obligation to. But most politicians, Hillary Clinton can't have those rules now. She wouldn't, and now she goes and has a press.
She wouldn't do almost
and the mayor of Chicago at that dumb forum or whatever it was, getting questions like that. Rahm Emanuel was an enormously prickly guy, and we got an example of that prickliness there.
Yeah.
But unless you want to believe it's calculating, and he thought, I don't like Mike Allen, and he did that thing to the Clintons or whatever. He did something, and I'm gonna get Mike Allen here.
Now, and remember that Rahm is besieged, right? And look, I think nothing is above politics for these guys. I just do, especially Rahm, right? So, a guy who's so deeply political, no matter what your views are on his ideology.
That's true, yeah.
Right? That he's besieged now because of the shooting in Chicago and how he covered it up for you.
And is now opposing a federal civil rights investigation.
Yeah, he'll say, outrageous. No, but wait a minute. You had the video, right? You knew that the Burger King video had been deleted. Why didn't you put it out earlier? Oh, you put it on it. You let them put it out after the election. In fact, you didn't let them put it out. The judge did, right? So he's got a world of hurt there, and he's earned a lot of mistrust in Chicago in the community, as he should, right? He's besieged. What's the perfect opportunity? Oh my God, my family. What have you done to my family?
And I believe that much sooner than he went off script. That scenario is pretty credible to me.
So, and either way, I don't know that Mike Allen chose the right question to go off script with. I don't care about his vacation. I don't think I would have brought it up in that context. But it does give you a sense. To me, the most important part of it is how politicians feel like, no, I get to set the ground rules, and if for whatever reason you violated my ground rules, I'm going to be seething anger. I'm going to angry at you in a way that is, disproportionate.
Yeah.
And so one of the messages that it sends, and maybe this is a particularly poor example because everybody can feel like, hey, don't talk about his vacation, right? But it does send a message. Don't ask questions I don't like.
Yeah.
Okay? Otherwise, I'll yell at you in public and you'll get in trouble. And by the way, what's the net result of this? Mike Allen has been pointed out, particularly rough 10 days. The guy who's going to get in more trouble is Mike Allen. Right? And so, as a general principle, ask away, man. Ask away.
Yeah, I mean, and in hindsight, I don't know if Mike Allen thinks this, but you'd like to think he'd think, how did I know that was a private conversation? Get over it. Answer the question. You want to talk about something else? Like, sorry, all I can do is say, sorry that you were trying to keep that a secret, but you're the mayor of Chicago, and I think it would have gotten out. But
let's move on.
He tried to apologize right there. He should have taken a different tack, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, he needed an aggressive apology.
Yeah.
I didn't know you wanted to keep that private, but now on to Laquan McDonald and how you cover that up for a year.
Right, as long as we're talking about things that you've wanted to keep private.
Oh, there you go. Okay, all right, let's do Alabama.
Okay, perhaps the biggest story of the day. Newly revealed documents looking at an Alabama narcotics investigation squad has unveiled a more than a decade-long organized string of purposeful plantings of drugs and guns on innocent black men since the mid-1990s. So these came from the Alabama Justice Project. They revealed that a Dothan Police Department's internal affairs investigation was covered up by the district attorney. And it shows that a group of up to a dozen police officers on a specialized narcotics team were found to have planted drugs and weapons on young black men for years. Now, they were supervised by, at the time, by Lieutenant Steve Parrish, who is the current Dothan Police Chief, and Sergeant Andy Hughes, the current Assistant Director of Homeland Security for the state of Alabama.
Okay, now, I read the whole report. This started back in 1996, and it has led to the false imprisonment of, and this is so depressing, thousands of young black men who did not do it. They planted the evidence. You know who turned them in? And God bless their hearts. Other police officers.
Yeah.
In fact, in the beginning, we know their race because it's in the report. Other white police officers in Alabama said, what are they doing? This is outrageous. And they go to their superior officers and they say, they're planting evidence on these kids and they're throwing them in jail. And their superior officers go, yeah, that's right. What's your problem? Right? So the prosecutor in the case, the commanding officers, etc. And then what happens after the giant cover-up? All the guys who did wrong get promoted.
They're in incredible positions of power right now.
This is now an internal affairs investigation. One of the interesting questions that I asked Quentin Tarantino earlier, but and he didn't really answer it, but I think it's worth discussing. Is for years and years, in every movie from the 1950s on, the rat squad, the internal affairs cops, those are the bad cops, right? And they're always the villains. They're always not to be trusted. Sipowicz and Bobby and or whoever he was with, and John Kelly or Bobby Simone, they were always the internal affairs guys. Don't talk to them. And they were always evil, and they were always getting in the way of good police work. Maybe we need to rethink that in this current day and age, because there are very few officers tasked with investigating wrongdoing by other officers, and we have been exposed in the last couple of years to a tremendous amount of wrongdoing by other police officers.
And we know that in the report, as far back as 1999, there were some of the men involved in this that were being targeted for having the guns and drugs planted, or their families. The young black men who had no record whatsoever, they were lodging complaints and wanting investigation. That was immediately squashed. No, we're not going to do that. And even originally when some of the cops were trying to look into this, they tried to squash that as well. And by the way, so this isn't just like for money or for fun, like, hey, we caught a bunch of people. So some of the people involved in this, the ones we were just talking about in the positions of authority, were part of a group that advocated for blacks to return to Africa. They said that blacks have lower IQs. And we might have
how high is your IQ? You just got caught.
They got caught.
Yeah.
Well, they held out for a long time, though.
Oh, and of course,
and
the
also,
Jewish conspiracy.
Jewish conspiracy. And, yeah, we have pictures, I believe, of them posing, holding up Confederate battle flags.
Okay, by the way,
but that doesn't mean anything about race.
They say there's a Jewish conspiracy, as they literally did a conspiracy against blacks.
Yeah.
No, you're the one with the conspiracy. And we're told all the time, no, it's just Southern pride and heritage, that flag. That's all it represents. Except to those racists who purposely put innocent black men in jail for now close to 20 years and got away with it. It wasn't heritage. It was racism, and they wanted to target blacks and Jews. There wasn't that many Jews in Alabama, so they just got the blacks.
And it wasn't in the 30s. It wasn't like in the run-up to the civil rights. Like, Seinfeld was on the air when they were planting guns and drugs.
No, and I want to be clear. It started with Seinfeld was on the air in 96.
And it continued,
It continued for nearly 20 years.
Yes.
Now, again, the good officers here, they turn them in and they go, we can't have this, right? You know who covers it up? Now, every one of these guys should be arrested. So Andy Hoos, Steve Parrish, those are the officers that John talked about. They're the guys who planted the evidence. There was another...
Are they in that photo?
Those were some of the supervisors.
Right. And one of the guys who planted the evidence, by the way, who was so egregious, so over the top, that they had to strike a deal where they let him go, right? But he said, I'm going to rat out everybody else. It wasn't internal affairs. It was one of their own that was going to rat out everybody else. So they're like, no, we won't press charges against you. We won't do anything. You're free to go. You just can't stay here, right? And he would have illegal weapons and drugs in his car. He's the thug. He's the criminal, right? Did he ever get arrested? No. The innocent people got arrested, but he didn't. But then Police Chief John White, he goes and testifies and says, oh, no, I never got any report of any wrongdoing from these cops. No, but wait a minute. It's on the record that you did. Yeah. That report was given to you. You're the one who said, let's not do anything about it. And then I think the biggest villain out of all of them is District Attorney Doug Valeska. They say to him, other cops in legal papers say to him, those cases that you're working on, we know the cops planted the evidence. He goes, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, not interested. He goes on to prosecute them, even though he knows they're innocent, okay, and will ignore the other officers. There are good officers. He ignores them. He doesn't do anything to the bad cops, and he prosecutes the guys and puts them in jail. How is he? Amazing. No. First of all, let's establish a bunch of things. These are the thugs, okay? These are the thugs. They took away hundreds, thousands of years of people's freedom, right? So they're racist. They hold up the Confederate flag. They do all this stuff, right? And they're proud to be part of this group, right? And so they did it again. They took away people's freedom. People should be like, black people in this country, some think they're too angry. I think they're not nearly angry enough. I mean, look at what's being done to them. No. This wasn't slavery. This wasn't Jim Crow. This is right now. It isn't race baiting to point it out. It's race baiting to do it. Yeah. Okay? You know what's race baiting? Taking an innocent guy, ruining his life, throwing him in jail.
Ruining his kids' lives, ruining his family's lives.
And you know what? Another thing that they are, what are they doing? What do they do to the black community down in Alabama? They terrorize them. Because there's nothing you can do. You're innocent. They planted on you anyway. And they do it to him, and they do it to you, and they do it to thousands of black people in Alabama.
And there are people in Alabama, 3 strikes and you're out, drug offenders who are in prison for a life, right? I don't know if it's first of all, I mean, my hunch is every single arrest these officers made, out. Those guys are out of prison. So it's going to include, what they're also going to have done is get some very bad people who were legitimately arrested and incarcerated are going to get out. And they should, because how do you know what these guys are capable of planning?
And that's their fault.
That's their fault, 100% their fault. Doug Valeska, what's the right sentence for Doug Valeska?
Prison for life.
It's
not a conversation.
Die in prison.
Yeah, you robbed them of hundreds of years of their life. How dare you ask for anything other than life in prison for Valeska and for these other guys? So you terrorize that whole community. By the way, what do you call that when somebody gets terrorized? Okay, so now the other thing is, I'm just trying to get people in this country to understand the perspective of African Americans. If you're an African American down in Alabama, and you already know that Joe didn't do it, and Bob didn't do it, and John didn't do it, you're the guy. If you're Bob and Joe, and they planted the drugs, they planted the weapons on you, how can you not be distrustful of the cops? When you see a cop coming at you, you think, oh no, he's here to do me harm. Why? Because they've been doing harm to them for that, at least these guys, for those 20 years. And it doesn't just affect one or two blacks, it affects so many of them, they think, rightfully, I am going to be skeptical of the cops. Please tell me you can understand that. Yeah. Please tell me you can understand. If you can't understand that, then we can't help you. If you still say, no, black people are at fault, cops never do anything wrong, it's just a few bad apples, I don't know why they're skeptical of the cops. Then you're either purposely blind to it, or you're really one of the densest people alive. This is why they're skeptical of the cops. No, every one of these guys. And one more role reversal. They get to hide behind a badge, right? But what did they do? They took somebody's freedom away. They locked them up, and they wouldn't let them out, right? Even though they were perfectly innocent. Now, what happens? It's state violence. The state sanctions it. In this case, superior officers and the prosecutors covered it up, right? And by the way, not turning that over to defense attorneys, if you're the prosecutor, is a very serious crime. Okay, that's a serious crime. You should do, as we said, maximum time for, right? So, imagine a bunch of black guys decide they're going to capture thousands of innocent white people in Alabama, put them in a basement, and not let them out for a year. What do you think happened? Right? But why is it okay when the guy with the badge does it? It's not okay. It's worse when the guy with the badge does it.
Yeah. It's the same thing, but you add abuse of power. Yeah.
And this is the cell that was caught, because some people on the inside made it clear that it was happening. There are thousands of police departments across the country. Which is more likely, that this was the only group that was doing this, or that they're in operation?
And it took them 20 years of the good cops complaining over and over again, for God's sake, when are you going to do something about these guys, right? And it turns out the guys in power, state violence, decided, nope, I'm going to keep on taking their freedom away.
When the lawsuits for compensation start coming in from the people who, some are still in jail, some who've gotten out in the interim in the past 2 decades, how much money is this going to cost Alabama?
Why do you think they call it Black Lives Matter? Because apparently, in Alabama, the black lives did not matter. It didn't matter if you took their freedom away. It's not new to Alabama, right? How many times have we gone through that in Alabama? Where black lives don't matter. And they don't matter to this day. Do you understand why they're upset? Well, how would you react? How would you react? Imagine if Obama opened up FEMA camps and imprisoned you wrongly for a year. He imprisoned thousands of your neighbors. And he did it wrongly. You were innocent. You didn't even do anything. And he put you in a FEMA camp and imprisoned you. What would you do? You'd rebel, wouldn't you? I know the right-wing guys, they'd grab a gun, wouldn't they? Right? And so, look, I don't want anybody grabbing any guns. I couldn't be any clearer about that, right? I'm telling you right now, black people in this country aren't angry enough. It's got to change, because it hasn't changed. Wake up call. It hasn't changed. It's got to change. If it doesn't change, there should be mass civil disobedience. People crying about, oh, they interrupted a library in Dartmouth. Boo-hoo. They interrupted a speech. Yeah, sometimes I don't agree with the way they did it. There should be mass civil disobedience all over the country, and let other people cry about it until we fix this goddamn problem. Okay.
How's your nose?
I ain't got time to bleed, but okay, let's take a break. John, thank you. Great job. Anna's going to come back, and then when we come back, I'm going to unload on the Turkish government, so that'll be fun. Young Turks.
Good evening. Everybody. How is everyone today? Question.
Back on the Youngsters, Jank, Ben, and Anna with you. Let me read a couple of quick tweets here from hashtag TYT Live. No more donations rights. I grew up not too far from San Bernardino. I live right next to Newton here in the USA. It's impossible to escape gun violence. It is. There was a stretch at one point that I missed a mass shooting where I was 2 or 3 of them within a week. Like I was in New Jersey and there had just been a mass shooting, and then I went somewhere else, and after I left, there was a mass shooting. And then there was a mass shooting here in LA. So it was like 3 in a row as far as I remember, right?
By the way, we're all either going to be personally affected by this by being involved in a mass shooting, or a family member is going to be. Like, there's no question about it. So get ready.
Yeah. Michael Gibb writes in, while fuck the NRA is a nice sentiment, the problem is deeper. It's an obsession with guns and a belief that violence is the solution.
That's right.
Well, Michael, that's a great point and absolutely true. Davos Seaworth says the sad thing is that many guns will be sold as a result of this shooting. That's unfortunately also true. And then the NRA guys will high five and hang a mission accomplished banner. Great. People are so scared they're going to buy more guns. And round we go. Joseph Langschwert says Shank seems even madder with the nose tape, like a wrestler. LOL.
It did help. It did fit into the, like, oh, he's a crazy man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure no one online will comment about it.
Yeah, sure. I'll leave that alone. Yeah.
Especially my
Come on,
critics.
right. You know, he's vulnerable right now. I'm gonna hold off on that. You know what? Delete. I've gone too far.
Finally, Dr. Chaos MD writes in, Trump is running for the nomination for the quote-unquote Family Values Party, claims we need to kill terrorists and their families. Yeah, that seems to be a pretty good point. It does seem quite pro-family values to kill families. But maybe I'm missing something. Okay, Anna, what's next?
All right. A Turkish judge has ordered an expert investigation into a meme that was put online by a doctor in Western Turkey. Now, the doctor compared the current president of Turkey to Gollum, and we have the example for you right here. So, it's actually uncanny. It really is. Now, of course, right now, Turkey is the type of country that's jailing journalists or critics or anyone that has anything negative to say about Erdogan.
That's Erdogan on the right?
Yeah, the one on the right, not the one on the left.
But then, other than the picture on the bottom, I would never have picked up that that's Erdogan. Like that doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Right.
Enjoying a drumstick.
Mhm.
So this is actually an incredible story because they've been trying to go after this doctor because he simply shared this meme comparing Erdogan to Gollum. That's it. That's all it's about. After no decision could be reached in the fourth hearing of the case, the judge ordered the investigation to be conducted by no less than 5 people, 2 academics, 2 behavioral scientists, 4 psychologists, and an expert on cinema and television productions.
But I want you to understand what they're trying to decide. They're not trying to decide whether the guy should be put in jail for insulting the president. They're trying to decide whether calling him Gollum is an insult. That's why they need the movie expert and the psychologist. They're like, wait, are you positive that Gollum's a bad guy? And the doctor now, I'm sure, afraid for his life, his freedom, etc., is like, no, Gollum's not a bad guy. Right? And no, I didn't mean it that way.
Beloved defender of a very specific item that he cherished.
Yeah, right. Cherished it very much.
Right, he cherished the ring the way Erdogan cherishes turkey.
Now, look, okay, so the part of this story is, of course, silly. I mean, Jesus Christ, Gollum, what are we doing, right? The other part of it is deadly serious and incredibly depressing. So I think we're at that point. I think that we've lost democracy in Turkey and don't realize it. So first off, they're imprisoning people for making fun of the president. They're going to give this guy 2 years.
Yeah, what's up?
If they conclude Gollum's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay, grant him that. Okay, don't because I don't want this poor doctor in jail, right? But if you were to grant him that in an objective world, etc., you're going to put somebody in prison for making fun of the president. What kind of democracy is that, right? So what can you say about the president?
He's already lost his job.
Yeah. And then journalists are being imprisoned every day. Right before the election, they imprisoned a number of journalists who had written against Erdogan, what was perceived as criticism against Erdogan. That's not a democracy. No, you don't have the media anymore. And we have tape of Erdogan yelling at the media, and one of the owners of the media organization is crying on the phone saying, I'm so sorry, I'll remove the guy who was critical of you. Okay? And after they imprisoned the journalist the week before the election, then the papers come out with blaring headlines in favor of Erdogan. That's not a free press.
No,
that's not a democracy. See, democracy isn't just you go and vote, although there is enormous questions about that in Turkey as well. So the polling indicated that Erdogan's group party would not win the majority that they wanted. Right? All of a sudden, huge swing, and the night before the election, and they win. Now they had the results immediately, but the computer that would show you the results somehow wasn't working. But they were sure they had them right. They were sure that the polling was completely wrong. And people are having a legitimate conversation about, like, oh, what went wrong with the polling? There's some chance that nothing went wrong with the polling.
Nothing went wrong with the
polling.
Because again, you're talking the kind of guy who would jail journalists and would put this doctor in prison for 2 years is the kind of guy who tricks an election.
I mean, there's funding of ISIS. My God, the other day broke my heart. There's this Kurdish human rights lawyer. They gunned him down in the middle of a press conference. Now, look, I'm not saying Erdogan did that. I have no idea, okay? I'm not saying he ordered people. I'm not saying he winked and nodded. But now it's a country where they gun down human rights lawyers in broad daylight and get away with it. What has it become, right? So at what point do you go, oh, no, it was, the saying in English, slowly boiling a frog in boiling water, right? Like, you just raise the temperature 1 degree at a time, and you don't notice, next thing you know, you're boiled a lot. And that's what's happening to Turkey's democracy. He's taking one thing away at a time, away at a time. Anybody who disagrees with him goes in jail. Anyone who now just makes a joke about him goes to jail. Who won't he send to jail? What kind of democracy is this?
Did Turkey ever really have a true democracy, though?
Absolutely.
No, okay, but here's the thing. Turkey, I'm specifically talking about the government of Turkey, not the people of Turkey, can't handle even the slightest criticism whatsoever. This isn't a new thing. This has been around for a long time. They banned YouTube because they didn't want anyone to say anything negative about Ataturk, right?
No.
Is that a democracy?
Anna, no. But Anna, you're absolutely right about that. And they're enormously touchy about criticism on a number of issues,
right? And
especially when it comes
full
to
of denial when it comes to their own wrongdoings.
Right.
There's no question.
So that's always been the case. But that wasn't what they perceived to be against their own people. That was perceived like the Chinese are super angry at the Japanese. China, of course, doesn't have a democracy, but that doesn't have anything to do with the internal workings of China, right? So in this case, the Turks could be super angry and in denial about Kurds, Armenians, Greeks, whatever it might be, right? And there are those laundry list of issues unquestionable. But it didn't affect internal stuff. So now they're saying, no, if you're a Turk, you don't really have a voice anymore, right? Let alone if you're a Kurdish citizen of Turkey, right? So there's no free press. That's come on, wake up, Turkey, wake up. There's no free press, right? Second of all, look at what they're doing here. I mean, they downed the Russian jet. Now it's clear that that they were at fault there. Even Erdogan said, we wish it hadn't happened. For him to admit that means they were totally wrong, let alone the fact that the Americans released the coordinates showing that the Turks were wrong. They shouldn't have downed it. Now the Russians won't go to Turkey. Now they've got to, stop the tourism. They stopped the trade. They stopped all this. I mean, this is madness, man. And then now, who would go to Turkey? Like, would I go to Turkey? I don't know. I've been invited to Turkey. Am I willing to go to Turkey? Wouldn't this guy imprison me? Of course he would.
I wouldn't go to Turkey.
Yeah, no.
I don't imagine.
So look at the damage he's done to Turkey. That we weren't the Gulf states. The Gulf states, you can get in prison for kissing a girl, for holding hands in the wrong way, for saying something wrong about this guy or the Mohammed or the rulers, etc. I already knew not to go to the Gulf states. Now they made Turkey fundamentalists. They robbed Turkey of their free press and their democracy. So who wouldn't get arrested in
Turkey?
Turkey?
He feels more fascist than fundamentalist. I know that he's much more religiously conservative than you guys have had, but still, this is a slow. These are fascist moves.
One of the preeminent journalists in the country just got arrested a couple of weeks ago. It might have even been last week. And he was thought like, wow, he's really famous. They're not going to arrest him. No, they did arrest him. That was after the election. And now he's gone. And you know what they called him? Terrorist. The word has no meaning anymore. So, Anna, there were real elections, and there was a real press in Turkey. I mean, there was tons of disagreements. There was exchange of ideas. You could disagree and be right about criticism of the Turkish government overall, absolutely, right? But there was a Turkish government. There was a democracy. There was a parliament. There was a free press. Right now, it doesn't look like that anymore. Look at this. Look at what it's become. This is God damn it, man. I mean, the fundamentalists have stolen so much from us. And if they stole this too, I don't know what the answer is. I just don't know. What do you do with this? The second largest army in NATO? What are you going to do with it?
Also, who wants to go to war because something bad happened to Turkey now? Like, I'm going to go. I mean, I get the Turkish people, but I want to go fight for this guy.
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the thing is, you were obligated to as NATO,
right?
But that's why the U.S. is super pissed, and they have been pissed at them for quite some time because they didn't have to release the coordinates of the plane.
Right.
If the U.S. government would like to bury something, they know how to bury it. Right? The fact that they released the coordinates of the plane showed that Turkey was wrong, even though Turkey's their ally and they've got a lot of issues with. That's saying, oh, for God's sake, man, what did you do? I don't want to go to war for you.
I imagine it's also strategic, too, that isolating him internationally behooves us. And right now, not isolating Russia, that was a nice olive branch to Putin to do that.
Yeah, no, and you see, that's why Erdogan, he thinks he's so smart. America's dying for an olive branch for Russia. What'd you do? You gave him an opportunity to give him an olive branch, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't think that through. You think, oh, we are NATO, they will protect us. And you didn't think through if you shot down the plane when it wasn't over your airspace, according to NATO rules, we don't have to protect you, right? It's only if you are attacked, not if you do the attacking. Oops.
In a related story, he looks like Colin.
Yeah.
And let me help this 5-person panel out. It's an insult.
Yeah, but that's the sick state of Turkey.
Right.
Now, I feel horrible for the doctor. I don't even want to say that for fear that they'll use it as evidence against this guy and imprison him. Okay, officially, Gollum is a wonderful person.
That's true. I take it
right, and it's clearly not an insult. Gollum cares deeply about things that he cares about.
Andy Serkis should have been nominated for an Oscar.
That's true. Yeah. Damn it, man.
All right. Let's move on. The Los Angeles City Council is considering a plan to go after Johns who are soliciting prostitutes in one particular area of the city. Now, keep in mind that there's no hardcore evidence linking these individuals to any type of crime, but these letters could be considered nonetheless. So Los Angeles is considering sending Dear John letters to the homes of men who solicit prostitutes, hoping the mail will be opened by mothers, girlfriends, or wives. Privacy advocates are slamming the idea. The plan would use automated license plate readers to generate the letters, which would be aimed at shaming Johns. Okay, so Nuri Martinez, who's one of the city council members, released a pretty strong statement about this. She's basically saying this: if you haven't solicited, you have no reason to worry about finding one of these letters in your mailbox. But if you are, these letters will discourage you from returning. Soliciting for sex in our neighborhoods is not okay. Now, understand that there isn't going to be some sort of investigation to prove that these guys who are driving through this area of Los Angeles were soliciting prostitutes. There's no hardcore evidence. But if the city council in Los Angeles approves this, they're going to send out these letters anyway.
Okay, so let's talk about what a stupid, stupid thing this is to do. So you're trying to protect your community, but now no one will go to your community because, God forbid, you're driving through what she's called the prostitution zone, which is your community. Take a picture of your license plate and send it to your kids and to your wife and to your husband. And you don't know who's in the cars. It could be a woman who's in the cars who's driving by the neighborhood. They're taking pictures of all the license plate, sending the stupid letters, right?
I lent my car out to a lot of people, and they're always driving through.
So, yeah, I mean, there'll be excuses like that. But, by the way, people who are going to help prostitutes, give them counseling, give them food, shelter, and say you don't have to be here. They take pictures of their license plates, send the letters to their houses.
I mean,
how stupid is this?
I mean, I'm sound like a right winger a little bit, but I mean, as bungling as government can be, like coming to a red light when you're in the right lane and stopping at the red light. We're sure that picture's not getting taken and sent when you're just, you're listening to music, you're listening to, This American Life, you're being like super white, and the light changes your car, but in that 35 seconds they took a picture of your car. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
By the way, even if there was an investigation and a way to figure out whether or not these people were actually soliciting prostitutes, is this still the best way to combat the issue?
No, we don't.
Like, it's what a high school student does. It reminds me of, like, three-way calls or something, like where, you want to get one person to talk shit about another person, so you call them both at the same time, and you have one person stay quiet. It's high school bullshit. This is not how you handle an issue like prostitution. You don't threaten people by sending letters to their family members.
That's right. Especially, they haven't even been convicted, they haven't even been tried, they haven't even been arrested. That's why we're calling it pre-crime. We don't know that they did anything. It would be, I think, outrageous even if you had stopped them and not convicted them. But in this case, we don't even know that it is them. Come on, for Christ's sake. By the way, you think it's just LA that's proposing this? No, it's already being done in Oakland, Minneapolis, and Des Moines. Wow. So they're already doing it in 3 cities in the country. So we told you, don't let them take pictures of us and video of us nonstop. They're going to invade our privacy. And here they are. The first opportunity, they're invading all of our privacy. They're taking license plates. Now, look, this is one way to start it. Are they going to take license plates in front of people buying weed where it's legal? All right? Where else are they going to take license plates from? So this is the state. I mean, if you care about big government intruding into our lives, this is it. This is it right here, okay? So there are no bounds of reason. We got to stop this. Somebody said it right here on Medium. They called it digital McCarthyism. That's what it is. And you want to solve the problem of prostitution? Of course, this woman and all the people who do this, what's the first thing they say? Oh, no, it's because I'm worried about the women who are doing this against their will and underage prostitutes. Then why wouldn't you send cops to go get the underage prostitutes and protect them, right? You're not even sending the cops. So if you really did care about that, boy, this would be the laziest possible way of doing it, right? Now, you don't care about that. You just hate the prostitution. No, if you cared about underage prostitutes or people who were forced into it against their will, you would legalize it, you would regulate it, then you would let 2 human beings do whatever they want to do that is consensual, and you'd butt out of their lives. But that would be a way of weeding out the underage, the unwilling, etc., and then you could help them. You don't want to help them. What you want to do is smear people, whether they're guilty or not guilty. It's just
Put cops on the street. It costs money. That's what it does. You want to clean up that neighborhood? Put cops on the street and figure out some way to increase investment in the area. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You don't do it like this.
And look, we say all the time, don't waste money going after prostitution. We got much bigger crimes, right? But that being said, I get it. You want
to clean up a neighborhood.
You want to clean up a neighborhood. I get it. By the way, that's another reason why you should legalize and regulate it, so they won't be out in the street, right? But there's a way to clean up the neighborhood without going in and doing this. Just like Ben said, you could bring in cops and say, "It is not allowed. You're not allowed to stand here. You're not allowed to do this here."
They walk around.
It's called Craigslist. Look into it. Go home. Clean up. Go home.
All right.
I'm sorry, guys. Did I get that right? By the way, is this
Medium?
Is this in San Bernardino County?
I saw San Fernando Valley.
Oh, San Fernando.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure they're bigger crimes.
Yeah. All right. Like many things in the United States, the health curriculum of public school students has now been bought off by major corporations that sell junk food. The curriculum is based on something known as energy balance, this whole notion that you can eat whatever you want as long as you exercise and work it off. Now, we all know that not all calories are created equally. Sugar has a much more negative impact on our bodies than anything else that we could eat. However, that's not what Coca-Cola is interested in teaching kids. Now, the class is part of Together Counts, an educational campaign promoting energy balance that is wholly funded by a group called the Healthy Weight Commitment Foundation, which is in turn run by and bankrolled by junk food corporations. That includes Indra Nooyi, CEO of PepsiCo. I'm sorry, this is something else. So Indra Nooyi, who is the CEO of Pepsi, is the chair of the board, and directors include the CEOs of Kellogg, Hershey, Nestle, USA, also Coca-Cola, Unilever, Smucker, and General Mills.
So look, those companies have a lot of products, and Mother Jones calls it the junk food industry, and it's totally fair to call some of their products junk food. Some of the other products are not necessarily junk food. In fact, not necessarily, definitely not. Right? They do baby food. They do all sorts of different things. Now, they are encouraging kids to exercise. They're pouring $10 million into that. That's positive, but we can't have a curriculum that says, okay, exercise, that's a good thing. But, let's put the emphasis on that. Let's not put the emphasis on what you eat, and a calorie is a calorie. It turns out it's just not. It's just not. The fructose is much more damaging than glucose. It is. Sugar is more damaging than non-sugar.
Yeah.
So that's just not. We can't have you teach things that aren't true to the kids.
So Mother Jones looked into the curriculum. They did excellent reporting on this. And one thing that they found, and this is among many other very questionable issues in the curriculum, was that they asked the students, hey, is it bad to eat cookies? And they're like, no, of course it's not bad to eat cookies. They're delicious and fun to eat. All you got to do is exercise. But here's the thing. If you have an unhealthy diet, you can go to the gym twice a day. It's not going to matter. A diet is more important than exercise when it comes to keeping the weight off. There's no question about that. So this whole myth about eat whatever you want as long as you work out is dangerous to kids, is dangerous to the public at large. And I remember doing a study on the show once about people who work out regularly are actually more likely to gain weight because they've been tricked into thinking that if I work out every day, I can eat whatever I want. Now, people who understand the importance of diet are not as, impacted by that. But we got to educate our kids, and we can't have corporations who sell junk food telling our kids what they can and can't eat. That's crazy.
So, again, they're not legislating here, but it is the power of media and in this case, propaganda, right? I'm sure that those CEOs would say, well, look, we were trying to do something good. Michelle Obama wants people to exercise. We're trying to help them exercise. And as much as it's a good thing that you put money in and other people didn't put money in, a calorie is not a calorie, so we can't have it, right? So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. The 2013 study tested, and they gave people an extra 150 calories per day, and that was just normal 150 calories, okay, across the board. And it turns out there was no extra risk in diabetes. It did not increase your risk of diabetes at all. Okay, that's very interesting. But then they had them eat 150 calories of sugar per day, and that was correlated with an 11-fold increase in diabetes rates. A calorie is not a calorie. Okay, so that's just not true. So we can't have it. I've said it 3 times now, yet we haven't. Because you know what happens? I think that the schools mean well. They're like, oh my God, $10 million to help tell kids to exercise. Let's do that, right? That seems like a great offer. Let's take that. But the overall problem here is, yes, sugar is worse than other kinds of calories. Fructose is not broken down, is only broken down by your liver, whereas glucose is broken down by other parts of your body as well. And so, because of that, your liver gets oversaturated. And this is a simplistic way of explaining it, but it's you can look and see the studies for yourself, and it is true. So what happens then is it turns it into fat right away, and it tells you you're still hungry. So high fructose corn syrup is killing us. That's what's, in some cases, quite literally, right? But that's causing, it's not the only factor. Nobody's ever that simplistic. I hope not. Okay. But it is a huge factor in the obesity rates in America and to the increased diabetes, etc. We got to get the high fructose corn syrup. By the way, you know why we have high fructose corn syrup in Coke when we didn't used to? That's why a lot of people are now doing Mexican Coke, because it has sugar and not high fructose corn syrup.
But doesn't sugar break down just as poorly as fructose?
No, fructose breaks down worse than glucose.
Right.
So when you do high fructose corn syrup, it's worse than just regular sugar. Sugar is worse than other calories, and fructose is worse than glucose. So it's also in all the processed foods. It's in all the junk food. It's in all the chips and the cookies that I love. I love them, but they pack them full of high fructose corn syrup, and then we're all blowing up as a country. Why do they pack them with that? Because it's cheap. Why is it cheap? Because of corn subsidy. Oh, here we go again. The corruption in politics. It's literally blown up the country. In this case, our waistlines. Seriously, the corn subsidies made corn so cheap that it replaced regular sugar with high fructose corn syrup in all of its products. And that has made us much, much fatter. We gotta get it out.
So the message with this is the message of Coke. That's what I mean.
Sugar is terrible for you, regardless. High fructose corn syrup might be worse for you, but no matter what, you have to limit your sugar intake. Sugar at least half of the body.
So I love this stuff. Got up right in the last like 4 or 5 Cokes, and I didn't get it before you guys. Someone have diabetes. Okay. But you gotta know the truth, right? So it pains me to start with like this. And don't tell me that about my liver. I don't want to know. Don't tell me that about glucose. I don't want to know.
Well, it's an addiction. It really is. How not being sugar is having.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, the first I can read about it. My wife did it for a while. I can read about it, but those first 4 days, the boost the headache. And then on like day 5 or 6, okay, let's take a quick break here. I'm going to come back with more stories about Coke.
We're coming back to the
Jeremy Varner writes in, Anna is right. My sister was in Fort Hood both times it got hit in the last few years. You can't avoid these events. Rob, in talking about how Turkey now calls journalists terrorists, the Turkish government does, says the U.S. is primarily responsible for making terrorism a meaningless term now. There's a lot of truth in that. They're not alone in that. That we just started calling all of our enemies terrorists, and even groups that were doing terrorism inside Cuba or Iran were like, no, they're not terrorists anymore. They're freedom fighters, even though they were killing civilians. So we made it meaningless, and then everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Putin's like, yeah, anybody opposed to me, terrorist. Erdogan, anybody opposed to me, terrorist, right? And on we go. Yeah, Dimesh says Erdogan's a dictator who wasn't really elected, supports ISIS, kills his own people for protesting. We've invaded countries for less. So is there a different standard, Dimesh, for our allies? You betcha, right? Look, I'm reading now about how ISIS is running their oil through Turkey. It is damning. It is damning. There was
Really? Where'd you read that?
Zero Hedge. They're the best financial reporting. Okay, totally unbiased. Called out the bankers exactly for who they were. Super experts in the field. And one of the countries they run it through, unfortunately, I don't know if the Israelis know this or not, is through Israel, because the Kurdish oil is sold illegally because the central government of Iraq says the Kurds are not allowed to sell it, but they won't share the proceeds with the Kurds. So the Kurds are like, yeah, thanks for that thing. Right?
Oh, okay.
So then ISIS uses that opportunity to run their oil through the illegal Kurdish oil, which is deeply ironic because ISIS and Kurds hate each other, right? And that runs through Turkey and unfortunately through Israel and into the rest of the world. So
I'm not going to use ISIS oil anymore.
good luck with that. Anyway, one more thing. Look, whether he fixed the elections is still an open question. Obviously, there are the doubts that I talked about in the last segment. There was a bombing of a Kurdish peace rally in Turkey, over 100 killed. Now, some Turks are mad and say, how come that didn't get the Paris Treaty? Over 100 of our people were killed. The whole world didn't sing the Turkish national anthem.
That was before, not long before, right?
Yeah, no, not long before.
Right. That's what the Smart article was about that about the soccer game booth.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you might be confused, Kurds, Turks. Those Kurds are all Turkish citizens, okay? Now, on the other hand, why did they block the ambulances from helping the wounded? Why do government officials get enormous security in Turkey? That peace rally had no security at all. So there are some deeply, deeply disturbing questions about who's doing the bombings. So will we hold our ally to the same standard that we hold our enemies? Remind me again what we're doing with the Wahhabism coming out of Saudi Arabia, or, by the way, the occupation that Israel is perpetrating upon the Palestinians. What have we done about that? Yeah. Okay. Perhaps not the same standards. Okay. All right. Let's move forward.
All right. A woman in North Carolina has taken drastic measures to make herself have the smallest waist in the world. She has a 14-inch waist, and the way that she did it was by taking out a few ribs. Her name is Pixie Fox, and we have a video about it. Let's take a look.
6 billion people in the world. What should every woman be saying for her?
Pixie Fox has had 6 ribs removed to allow her to corset her waist to an eye-watering 16 inches. So far, she has spent almost $120,000 on surgery to look more like the cartoon characters she idolizes.
I've always been inspired by cartoons and Disney movies, all the curves and tiny waist. People openly come up to me and say, like, don't take this the wrong way, but you look like a cartoon. For me, that's a compliment. Can you breathe? Oh, wow. I wish I could get mine this low.
Pixie grew up in a small town in Sweden, but never felt like she belonged.
I have been in a place where I felt like I can't relate, I can't be myself, and I felt really, really lost. I always felt like I need to go somewhere, I need to do something, I need to surround myself with people that is like me.
Okay, Mark Croft with a really interesting report there. Check out the whole video in the link below.
Who had that interesting report there?
Mark Croft TV. Okay, so great job by them in exposing this. Taking out ribs to be skinnier. So, look, she's obviously has an affliction, right? Mm-hmm. She has a mental issue. So, what do we do about that? I mean, she keeps saying, hey, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to do. Leave me alone.
Yep.
But I look at that. Are we being, I know this is insane. I mean, I'm super living out here. But should we not make fun of her? Because she clearly has a mental issue?
I mean, I don't think that it's right to make fun of her, but I think that a more interesting conversation is how far plastic surgeons should be allowed to go. Because, look, I'm not against plastic surgery. You guys know that. But at the same time, when you're taking out 4 of your ribs...
6.
I'm sorry, 6 of your ribs.
How many ribs do we have?
Your ribs are the...
I know, right?
Not more than 6, hopefully. But I just...
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, let me see if I can count.
I definitely cannot.
Yeah, I was going to say, can't count.
I see these ridiculous waist trainers worn by celebrities on all the Instagram pictures, all over social media. It looks dangerous. Doctors have said it's dangerous. And if you think that's dangerous, look at this story where someone literally took 6 of her ribs out just so she could have a smaller waist. It's not worth it. She was so beautiful.
That's the thing. I mean, that's not the thing. The thing is that she has this issue, and it's terrible. But it's impossible not to look at that and think, you were beautiful. You were flat out gorgeous, beautiful woman. And so it shouldn't matter what she looked like, but that only shows that there's no point where she's going to be. So I think she's had her breast done too.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't want to presume. Yeah, that's tough to look at. That is a shame.
And look, she might have. Look, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know her personally. So at this point, what I'm about to say is obviously speculation. So let me be clear about that. But people have certain mental disorders that lead to them looking at their bodies in a completely inaccurate way. I think it's called body dysmorphic disorder, where you look in the mirror and it's what you see is so different from what the reality is. And I just wish she could see what we saw in the before pictures. This gorgeous, beautiful woman, she was perfect. She was perfect. I would kill to look like that, you know? And it's just...
Yeah. So, look, you're being way too cautious. She clearly, you don't do that to yourself unless there's something a little off. I mean, if she's perfectly happy being off in that direction, okay, well, everybody's abnormal in a different way. So without judging her, I could judge the culture that led to that.
The culture of the doctors, they're willing to sign off on a surgery like that.
You know, a lot of doctors will say, like, okay, I don't want her to do it unsafely. I'll do it safely. She's going to get that.
Yeah, like what is she gonna do? Take her wrist off herself? You know, maybe.
I know, you go to Dr. Nick Riviera. I mean, you find some clown who'll do it. You know.
Well, that seems like she did find it.
Yeah, that may be. You may be right. Yeah. I wouldn't know Dr.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, look, bottom line is, the reason why it's a captivating story is because it's a microcosm of what we're going through as a society. So we're all obsessed with looking like the images that we see in the media. She's just taking it to an absurd extreme, but we've all as a society taken it to an extreme. Not to her extreme, but we all have in different ways. And that's why earlier today I had plastic surgery on mine.
Didn't work. And Jake, you know, I think what you should do is add more band-aids. Yeah, just do the whole thing, and then
I'm thinking of doing one of those masks at the basketball play.
That's right. I think that'd be the way to go.
I don't know why I'm dressing this, but I don't know why you're wearing a band-aid. Like I saw.
Oh, I'll tell you why. Okay, you ready to get hurl? Because I took it off earlier, right before the show. Skin care. Okay, so
back on.
A disaster.
By the way, you should be wearing glasses.
Yeah, we said that at the beginning, and then after this.
Don't you think Jen would look good with the optical eyeglasses that he has? And she looks good, but I mean, with like, Jen have glasses. Like, Jen went with her.
No. I don't like that. I actually don't like thick frame glasses, like super thick frame glasses. I think Jenkins looks better with glasses on. I don't know why you don't wear glasses.
I can certainly sweat with glasses, but like a mask.
Like a Groucho conversation about how good Jenk looks in certain ways.
I think I would like to see the Rick Barry thing because Jenk has a big face. Huge Jenk. But you have a big face, and I think those glasses lend themselves to that.
I'm going to call this conversation as we're giving conclusions about look, if I had more time, I had rushed over to the same thing reason we won't get into it. Otherwise, I'll get mad at my gal. But skin tone,
Yeah, good idea.
By the way, here's what you upset about the story. Kathy Jordan, who was the Guinness World Record holder with a 15-inch portion of waist. As long as we're blaming giant sort of organizations, how about Guinness stop measuring waste?
Okay,
like how about world's strongest man, most pies eaten in a short period of time? That's good stuff. We don't need to have the world's smallest waist. You don't need to measure everything.
By the way, like I know that women with like a curvaceous, like hourglass figure, are desired, right? But do you guys like freak out over how small a woman's waist is?
No.
Like, are you guys like, oh my god, is it 16 inches or is it 14 inches?
No.
Yeah, like just everyone.
the only way that it stands out is she stands out as something enormously, honestly, unattractive. Like
That's not proportional.
Yeah, it makes you go, ooh. It makes you think of bad times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Look, it's not to say we don't care about people's looks. Let's be real. Of course, we're human beings. Everybody cares about looks, but it's not doing you any favors. Okay, all right. Let's. We got a lot of stuff. Hey, guys, can you get me a Band-Aid? Let's try it on air. After the next story, let's try putting on a flush toga. All right, go.
Are we doing that live?
Yeah, why not? Keep going.
All right.
The Al-Bed said summoners were being sacrificed.
Russian Maxim.
The
Russian edition of Maxim just recently put out an article titled "Gays We Respect." Now, as you know, Russia recently passed some anti-gay laws. They want to ensure that people don't spread gay propaganda to young people. But Maxim in Russia decided to release this article, and even though it sounds really bad, I want you guys to hold off on judgment because we had a person who can read Russian in the studio, and her interpretation is very different from how the media in the U.S. has interpreted it. With that said, in an article headlined, Gays We Respect, the Russian edition of men's magazine Maxim has forgiven a list of famous actors, authors, and musicians for their sexual orientation. Here's a little excerpt from it. We men do not consider men who love men to be men. This is the rule. But there are exceptions. There are gays who have earned our respect and the right to remain real men in our eyes.
That's going to need a significant translation change to pull them out of it. Yeah.
So, look, Irina Nikita, she's the executive producer of the main show. She read the article, and so she feels that this is it's like a parody, like kind of making fun of Russia because they're so against gay people, but when it comes to certain gay celebrities that
right.
they love to watch, then all of a sudden they're like, okay, that person gets a pass. But we hate gay people.
Before Irina even read it in the original Russian, I got a sense of like, wait a minute, let's pause on this story because it sounds like they might be being sarcastic.
Yeah, they were being well.
I mean, here's my so they have a bunch of celebrities, Neil Patrick Harris, and they say, well, you play a straight guy really well, and writing about the bro code and How I Met Your Mother. But to me, they put Freddie Mercury on the list, and I was like, that's got to be sarcastic.
So, first of all, Freddie Mercury was the shit. So, it's awesome that they included him on the list. But look, just listen to the language. Even when it's translated to English, you can kind of get a sense of the sarcasm. We weren't sure about including Neil Patrick Harris in the list. After all, he declared himself a happy gay in 2006. But his performance as Barney Stinson in the series How I Met Your Mother hasn't left us indifferent. It's impossible not to respect someone who elevated the hunt for girls into a true art. And also the Freddie Mercury part that Jank was referring to said the following. As the lead singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury brought us so much joy, we are ready to forgive him for anything.
Yeah, I think they might be joking. I agree. I think Irina's probably right.
Yeah. Now, look, the thing is, unfortunately, the world's gotten so ugly that
we're prepared for just...
Yeah, we're braced for impact. Like, oh, no, Jesus Christ, what are they thinking in Russia? Because there is horrible discrimination against gays in Russia, encouraged by the Russian government. So, and now Maxim across the world in the U.S. edition are like, no, we're not a part of this. We don't have anything to do with it. We don't sanction it. But even if they meant it as sarcastic and poking fun of the Russian government, that's a tough line to walk, right?
It is a tough line.
I would have been pretty careful about that.
Who's this tweet from? Do you have any of the tweets of the people?
Yes, the people that were upset about it. So
I can't even follow this first one.
Okay, so one person said, and this is someone who's critical of the article. This is on Twitter. I, a person, do not consider those who think men who love men are not men to be people, and there are no exceptions. He's basically saying, if you think that gay men aren't men, then I don't think you're a person. Like, I don't think you're a man.
I couldn't follow that. Okay,
yeah.
So I do not consider those who think men who love men are not men to be people.
Oh, Irina assured me that reads much better.
Okay, all right.
All right, another one. These gays must be pissing boiling water over the fact that they earned your respect, you little yellow news rag. I kind of like that one. But yeah, I mean, look, things do get lost in translation, and it's important to step back and kind of analyze what their true intentions were. But I do agree with Jake. It's ballsy to write a sarcastic article.
Yeah, totally.
Supporting gay people, you know?
Yeah, if you could do that in Turkey, you'd get arrested.
You might get arrested in Russia.
By the way, Alexander Malenkov, the editor-in-chief, said this is a joke article. It says so in it.
Yeah. Now, he says whether it says it's a joke article in the introduction is a matter of dispute.
Yeah.
When you read it, it's not clear that it's a joke, and hence the blow-up.
I don't think
by the way, to be clear, in Russia, it is a crime to do propaganda that encourages young people to consider the homosexual lifestyle. That's the umbrella under which they prosecute people for, in any way, shape, or form,
so
advocating for or saying it's acceptable to get.
So they're towing a line here, so they're... Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to... because I don't think I'm wrong here, and I think I think I've read a statistic that this is true. There are no funny Russians now that Yakov Smirnoff left. So that's part of the problem. Why it doesn't translate.
Who?
That's awesome. Okay, and...
Like the drink manufacturer?
There was a Russian comedian named Yakov Smirnoff who did a bunch of commercials that always ended with, in America, you always find the party. In the Soviet Union, the party always finds you.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that before. I didn't know it was Mr. Yakov.
Yeah.
What I can't wait for is the hashtag Russian apologist. That's coming. Okay, here. Let's get the Band-Aid. Let's try this live on air, Edwin.
I'm so afraid that you're going to start bleeding.
Okay.
I am hoping that you start bleeding.
Oh, no, this is too small, don't you think?
No.
You want it bigger?
Oh, you're not taking the other one off?
No, I'm not taking the other one off.
Oh my god, it's a little better.
Oh, you were going to say infinitely better before you saw the side.
You know why? Because I'm looking at the monitor on the side and the coloring's a little different. So
it's much better on the wide shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, we've done something.
Right.
98% through the show. Okay, one last story.
All right.
The flip side is sometimes the Band-Aid that looks like you're trying to cover it up is worse than just saying, I have a Band-Aid. I have a facial injury and I'm wearing a Band-Aid.
I hear you. Members of the day: Lars Olson, member number 2106, and Alice Jensen, member number 1805. Thank you, guys. By the way, a quick version of the show is on Hulu, hulu.com/The Young Turks. It's 30 minutes like a TV show. You get the top stories of the day. And if you want to, we're going to do a members-only podcast, of course, right after this. And if you're a member, you get that. And plus, you would have gotten the Quentin Tarantino interview live as Ben did it earlier today. So TYTnetwork.com/subscribe to become a member. All right, last story.
All right. A number of mysterious ghost ships have been washing up in Japan, and the origin of these ships is likely to be North Korea. Now, more and more of these ships are coming up, and unfortunately, they're full of dead bodies. They're assuming that the dead bodies are fishermen from North Korea. Now, in 2011, 57 of these ships were found. In 2012, it was around 47. And in 2013, 80 washed up or were found floating at sea. Now, again, all of these ships contain dead bodies, but it's unclear how many bodies in total. In 2014, 65 were found, and the count so far this year is 34. That's a total of 283 boats in 5 years. However, the Coast Guard hasn't disclosed how many bodies were on board. Now, the reason why this is starting to get some traction in the media is because 12 of these so-called ghost ships have washed up in the last 5 weeks. So it's happening more and more often. And so when I first read this story, I thought, well, it's obvious. These are North Korean defectors. They're trying to get the hell away from that terrible place. But there's also some suspicion that Kim Jong-un wanted to increase the number of fish being caught by fishermen. So what they're doing is they're going off further into the sea or the ocean. And when they do that, they actually put themselves in much riskier situations with these very flimsy boats.
There's so many things in this story that I love that are, I'm sorry for the result. But like you just said, and it's indicated here that this only recently became a story because what was it, 5 and 12 days or 12 and 5 days? How is this not a huge story before? Yeah, how is the arrival of one mysterious boat filled with dead fishermen not a story all by itself? I'm instantly reading that story. Yeah. A boat showed up in Japan with 12 dead fishermen on it. We don't know where it's from. Really? Let me read more. And you're telling me there have been 300 or some odd of these? That's amazing.
Yeah, and by the way, it wasn't clear that they were all fishermen, so it was in fact even more mysterious.
Right, yeah.
And it wasn't even clear that they were from North Korea. There's Korean writing on the ships, on some of the ships, and they're not coming from South Korea, so that's how they pieced it together. But in the beginning, it was an even bigger mystery. All these ghost ships show up.
But wouldn't one time a ship arrive with 8 dead people and 3 survivors?
Yeah, isn't that also amazing? That's right.
So that tells me that, no, something else is, the distance between North Korea and Japan is, I have no idea. And neither do you. But it's not, they don't have to traverse the world. Right?
You'd think that some way
somebody would be like, oh, I'm so thirsty, but I lived and my friends died.
Yeah, I saw that movie where the guy is on the boat with the tiger, and he lived.
He lived, right? Totally, yeah, that's right.
So, there is a deeper mystery here, but as I thought about it more, I think the answer is probably simple, which is that whether it's, and remember, it could be Kim Jong-un. Lately, there's been pictures of him at a fishery bragging about how the North Koreans can produce so much fish, and which is a funny word for it, and that they're going to increase the amount of fish they're catching next year. But remember, it goes back to 2011. So, but the answer is still relatively simple. They're starving. Right? Whether it's the government putting pressure on them to catch more fish, or it's because they need to catch fish so that their family can live, there's some sort of pressure to go further and further out, do more desperate things to get the fish and bring it back shore, and then a certain percentage of them are going to get washed out, are going to get caught in a place where they shouldn't with the currents, and going to wash up in Japan. So that led me to believe that there's an enormous number of Korean fishing ships, North Koreans, desperate for food, right? And that's what's leading to this.
Yeah. It's an amazing story, though, that just this is a thing that ghost ships turn up with bodies on board. That's amazing.
You're right, Ben. We love the movies, and so the minute I started reading the story, I was like, this is the beginning of a movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, like you try to figure out what happened with the ghost ships, and then you tell the rest of the story. Unfortunately, the rest of the story of what's happening in North Korea is disastrous. That's what's leading to this. Well, The world is complicated, man. I really wish we would have won that Korean War. Okay. We are done. And like I said, post game, God knows what's in it. I want to talk more about the Tarantino interview and what he said about us behind the scenes. We'll pull Mike Allen, reveal where he's going on vacation. No, we won't. Okay, but we'll do a little inside baseball for you. All right. Bye-bye.